Welcome to the Monday, September 14th regular school board meeting. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Matthias.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Do we have any changes, amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda today?
Not at this end.
No? Okay. All right, then we're moving on to approval of the minutes. Superintendent?
I recommend approval of the minutes from the executive session for collective bargaining, August 10th, 2020, the regular school board meeting, August 10th, 2020, school board workshop, August 17th, 2020, executive session for collective bargaining, August 17th, 2020, emergency special school board meeting, August 17th, 2020, and the regular school board meeting, August 24th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on, we do not have any public input, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so skipping public input, moving on to reports with Carmen Colombat from the Educational Foundation.
Thank you, Chairman, school board members, Superintendent. Apple Mart has been open for 4 weeks and we've had 81 teacher visits, and we've distributed $6,075 worth of supplies. We've received $5,000 from Clay Electric for our ACT reading prep program, $5,000 from the Lake CARES Act funding that was distributed to nonprofits, $2,500 from the Ironman Foundation to be used for PPE. And today we received $1,000 from the Lake County Sheriff's Office charity, and that is to be utilized for the Go Kits. We were approached by Safety and Security for the district and asked to fund a $13,000 printing project for the Go Kits. And we've been able to secure 11,000 of the 13,300 so far to print 8,000 of those kits, one for each classroom. The Renaissance Fair was canceled. However, the cast members are putting together a virtual education day as well as a virtual fair day for November 6th and 7th. And there will be no charge to any students that participate in that or patrons. Disney is sending us 60 pallets, and in terms of numbers, that is 90,000 reusable cloth bags, and they're being shipped for next week, and they're available for employees and students. We also had purchased 2,500 reusable water bottles so that the kids can have them as opposed to not having access to the water fountains. And those are being distributed to the 9 elementary schools that asked for them this week. And Teacher of the Year, I understand from the state that they are not moving deadlines. And so I sent out the nomination packets to the principals today with the initial deadline of October 7th. I know it'll be very difficult with our schools right now to try to make those selections when we've just gone in and they're facing so many other obstacles. But the state is not giving us any variance in deadlines. So we are going to have to proceed with that. We do have the Venetian Center booked for January the 28th. They are still at 150 capacity, and that event typically would have had 600 at it. We cut it back to 450 last year, but we have a backup plan using a platform called Remo so that we could invite the 3 finalists with guests to a live facility and then have the schools join in using this platform for the announcements. but we are hoping to go live with that event. And other than that, things change every day in the foundation. So any questions?
Yeah. Mrs. Cullen-Batt, what is the safety one you were just speaking about?
It's called a Go Kit. And in the interior of it, they want to model it like the ones that are in Citrus County. On the inside, there are about 10 sheets that have procedures and policies for school shootings, for fire, any sort of quick emergency. And it's the visual guide for the students. When it's held up on the front side, it's white, and they know it's not imminent danger. On the back side, it's red. And that signifies to the student and the teacher that it is immediate danger, and the procedures are in there.
And you're $2,000 short right now?
Yes,
Okay, done. I'll cover that.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next. Dr. Burns? She's done.
She's muted.
Sorry, I was muted. My dog was loud. Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Carmen Cullen-Batt. And we're moving on to the attorney report with Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, just a heads up, the method that we're using to have these meetings by Zoom with some members not present currently is scheduled to end the end of this month, so we would have one more meeting to not have to comply with the in-person quorum requirement. We're anticipating, Elizabeth tells me that the FSBAA group has indicated that they think that it will be extended, but for right now, probably at the end of the week, we'll have to plan for any meetings after the 28th to need a quorum. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have meetings or you can't do it in this format if you want. What it means is you can't hold the meeting if there aren't at least 3 members present here in person, and those 3 members are the only ones who can vote. The individuals who are not present cannot vote remotely. That's all I have.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to the consent agenda, Superintendent.
I recommend approval of consent agenda items 8.01 to 10.03.
So moved.
Second.
Are we there?
We have a first.
I don't think you were done yet, were you? Is that it?
That's it.
There was nothing pulled.
Oh, you said 10.03.
Yeah,
I thought you were
she's-
stuck on 8. Sorry, I didn't hear the 10.03.
It's
We got-
the shield is.
It's the shield.
blocking the sound.
Did we have a second on that? I believe
Yeah, you had a first and
I did.
then Mrs. Luke seconded.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Moving on to the superintendent's report. I might beat Bill's record.
Just a few things to mention. Just a reminder that we have a workshop coming up next Monday that I'm really excited about. We are going to hear from the principal of our new K-8 out in Four Corners. She's going to come to talk to you about the committee's work to recommend a name for that school, as well as some vision setting. I had a chance to go out and visit the site, and it was really exciting to see the walls of the new school coming up and realizing that this is going to be a reality soon for our kids and in our district. So that was very exciting. We're also going to be bringing to you some other items. If you'll recall, Dr. Landry presented some information a few weeks ago at a workshop from Student Services that covered some of the referendum items, some of the things coming out of her department in terms of school nurses or mental health liaisons and some of that work. And the board had asked for the rest of the referendum items, which would include an update on our school safety and security work, as well as our PASS program, Lake Success Academy. So just some good things coming up on Monday. So just a reminder, 9:30 on Monday to cover those other items. Also, just want to recognize, we have 3 of our seniors who have been named National Merit semifinalists. Jackson Cheplick from East Ridge High School, Audrey Lord from Eustis High School, and Rory McKenna, also from Eustis High School. Last year, they were juniors. They took the PSAT and were among the highest scores in the state, and they're among 16,000 semifinalists nationwide, and now have the opportunity to continue in the competition for the National Merit Scholarship that will be offered next spring. So congratulations to them and to their teachers and parents for all of their hard work and support of these outstanding students. We have a few letters of condolence that were sent. A letter was sent to the family of Maurice Moe Myers. He's the father of James Myers, president of the Education Foundation, and father-in-law of Lori Myers, assistant principal at Sorrento Elementary. Also to the family of Jennifer Purvis, the teacher at Mascot Charter Elementary. To the family of Jesse L. James Sr., father of Hilda Foster, bookkeeper at Beverly Shores Elementary. And to the family of John Yates, who is the bus driver in our transportation department.
Okay, moving on to board member comments. Ms. Luke?
I really don't have much. I wanted to, I feel like we do this every meeting, but just the last couple of weeks since school has started, it's been refreshing for me as a parent to have my children back in a routine of some sort. I am thankful for the routines that the classroom teachers are doing and the ease of transitions that my students have had. So I'm hearing a lot of good things in that regard. I also have been able to spend a little bit of time at Lake Virtual and observing some Lake Live classrooms. And again, I think just the reaction and the way that this district has come together to support all of our options has been amazing. And I just want to thank the teachers that are working daily to troubleshoot all of these new areas, because it's new and nobody really knows what to expect, and we're kind of combating as we go, and the work's just remarkable. And so I just want to reiterate that and say thank you to all of you guys and to the teachers that are working for our students.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dodd?
Yes, well, similarly, I have some commendations out there for all the teachers who have taken on the challenges of this school year. I've had a chance to visit all of the schools in my district over the last couple of weeks, and also had the chance to observe many Lake Live classes as well as in-person classrooms. And we knew that teachers would have a new set of challenges that they'd face this year, and that students would face. And it's just so nice to see teachers rising to those challenges, to see the students succeeding, and so all that is wonderful. And then I also would like to just throw a special thanks to Sherry Owens there, who assisted with the call outs. Myself, as well as many other parents, it seemed from the Facebook world, were experiencing challenges with the call outs cutting off. And so I appreciate her finding a workaround with the company to send the text of that call that the principals leave, and so now I'm able to get all the news, and many are as well. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Very good. Mr. Gamble?
Just like to say, the start of this year has been very challenging, but I appreciate the emails from teachers and staff that have sent to us and said that with all the challenges that they appreciate everything that the board has done and the staff to make this work. Even though there is some challenges still out there that are trying to comprehend, to be able to make these students want to be there still at Lake Live, because I understand attendance is a problem in some of it, but they're doing everything they can. And I appreciate all the work that the teachers and the staff at the schools are doing, and the administration as well. One of the things I would just like to say tonight is this. At our last meeting that we had when we talked about the budget, I brought up some issues about some field and things at the schools, the 2 high schools, Tavares High School and Lake Mineola High School, and also Umatilla High School. And even though I'll be going off this board mid-November, I would like to see, though, that the board not lose focus, and we look at still trying to maintain and get those facilities up and going like they should be. And I understand we can't do it all this year, but if we got to start somewhere. So just keep that in mind, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gamble. Mr. Matthias?
So this week, as I typically do, I take notes during the course of the year, and ultimately I review those prior to doing the superintendent's annual review. Initially I thought it was just me, but it wasn't. That I couldn't find my review for the superintendent for last year. So I called Mr. Johnson, and we had not done a review for last year for the superintendent. And it is required under her contract. So typically it is in two parts. And one of them is based on an evaluation from us, the board. The other part is based on job performance. And that instrument is used collectively to come up with a score that that decides whether we're going to keep you or not, I guess. Anyway, so the challenge, and this is kind of COVID driven because we sort of lost track with everything else going on, but the challenge also has been that we don't have all the data, and some of it has been waived by the state, some of it's skewed because of graduation rates, and so in order to complete the role that we serve and giving the superintendent the evaluation, that I wanted to propose this to the board. Number one, we have to do it based on our contract, but that we would, like we have done in other cases, that we have elected that in the case of our instructional personnel, that we would just use last year's number, or year before last, I guess, number. And that I would propose that this year, as a board, we waive the requirement for an evaluation, and that we use the same as we've done in other cases that seems to set precedents, that the superintendent's evaluation from year before last would move forward. And this is kind of open discussion. I couldn't get it on the agenda, Chairman, so I just discovered it.
Oh, okay, it's new.
So we have, whatever we decide, we have a special meeting on the 21st that we could make actionable, that I would suggest that we move quickly to complete tying the loose ends around of last year for the superintendent and our contractual obligation to her.
Well, I guess my first, I'm just processing as you said this, but the first thought was if we're going to pull her evaluation forward, do we do that for teachers?
We did it already. That's my point.
Teacher? Oh, I
Yes.
didn't know we did that for teachers.
Yes, we did.
When he
Oh,
says
I think
last year's,
that
he's
means
talking about 1920, like now we're in 2021. So for
Mhm.
1920, when we didn't have data because of COVID and all the testing was canceled and everything. So the teachers didn't get an evaluation last year. They were
Oh,
archived.
I understand. I didn't know that. Like, I assumed they had their evaluation. So, okay, that's fine. As long as, yeah, I'm fine with that. Mr. Dodd, do you have any thoughts? Or Mr. Gamble?
Go ahead, Mr. Dodd.
Well, it's certainly indisputable that we don't have any reliable student achievement data to look at, but I think there are perhaps still plenty of leadership metrics where I would hate for the superintendent to miss out on all the praise for this handling of all these unique situations, and I guess I'm wondering where we highlight that, in terms of the rollout of the technology and thinking about how the reopening of schools and so on and so forth. So, I mean, where does all that get captured if we don't complete something of newness?
And you're spot on, Mr. Dodd, because that's what I was looking, because as I was documenting, I was sort of assembling, and I went, where do I put this? and so, but I think that it's really up to the superintendent if you're willing to do that, or you want us to.
But can I just ask a question really quickly? Because it's a fair point in regards to like the comments and that thing, but we didn't get to do it for teachers either. And I would say they're lift similarly, just parallel in the different positions that we serve. Like they weren't able to receive a highly effective, even though they all went through similar transitions from March to May and June, and even into the summer planning that went into getting ready for this school year. So I'm wondering if we can't capture that somewhere even for them. And for all of our employees that have really had to be flexible during the last 6 months, because this is all new for everybody. So I would like to think consistently about that. Like I definitely think the praise is out there. It's worthy of everybody that works for the school district at this point in time. But I just don't know where we capture that fairly for everyone.
What do you mean by capture? Do you mean just write it down, capture?
Well, like Mr. Dodd was mentioning the metrics, like we do have our section of the superintendent's evaluation that we can do that's not linked to the student performance piece. But it's my understanding that even teachers didn't get the observations, like their classroom observation pieces prior to coronavirus, and then the work that was done in the fourth 9 weeks that was all virtual, like none of that was captured for them either. So metrically, evaluation capture is what I mean. So I don't know if we can consider that as it rolls into the 2021 school year for everyone. I don't know. And I'm open to it. I'm just throwing that out there.
I guess I don't know. That seems like a lot of work for principals to backfill.
I'm not suggesting backfill. Please don't misunderstand. I meant like
Okay,
going
yeah, then
forward, everybody, I don't know. I almost feel like everybody gets a innovating stamp for this last 6 months. Is that questionable for anybody at this point in time? If you've made it the last 6 months, that whatever that word is it innovating? Is it highly effective? Is it like everybody needs that captured in this time frame? Is all I'm suggesting. Definitely not going back and doing observations or collecting lesson plans or what did anybody do? And superintendent likewise. Like I just feel like either we start fresh or we find a way to grab all of that and push it into everyone's going forward.
And I think the proof of the pudding is in the results. And so we know the hard work that's been done, and we've watched it as it's matured. Right now, the only thing I'm addressing is that we have an obligation per the contract, and I'm advocating that we use the last full year and that then we move forward.
I think it makes sense Superintendent, do you have an opinion?
No, I support Mr. Mathias's recommendation.
To have a special meeting, or to have the meeting Monday turned into a special meeting?
And that we just roll over the last evaluation. That's what I'm kind of asking. Or I think it's fair, by the way.
And then we will be doing an evaluation. When are we scheduled to do evaluations?
Well, then it would be
December?
June of next year.
After the next fiscal year, after this fiscal year is over.
Yeah, we rolled right through June without doing it,
Okay.
and we were so consumed.
Because
That's when we typically would have done it.
Right.
And
We were doing graduation and then we were shifting to opening the schools.
But
yeah, it's no fault of really anyone's,
Yeah.
other than we have an obligation under the contract. And I think that based on the precedents we've already set with our instructional, that it just makes sense to me.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I thought we did one, but.
I did
now
too.
that-
I mean,
now
just
that
so you know,
say
I did
June-
too.
Now that you say June, but as I recall, we changed it because of the fiscal, the budget year starting actually was October, but actually everything else starts July 1st, so we changed it back to that. So I'd forgotten we had agreed to that, and that's what you're actually speaking to, because we did do one in 1920. Okay.
No,
For
18, 19.
For 18, 19.
That's right.
And that's where I didn't want to say anything publicly, but now I have, so, but now I agree, yeah.
So that process, I think, it normally runs through our attorney's office, right? And I think we always do it whenever Mr. Johnson says, "Oh, it's time to do an evaluation of your superintendent or your auditor."
Yeah, we can
is
blame
that
it all on
that
Mr.
his
Johnson, being
calendar?
fair.
Oh, is that on his calendar so we don't roll through it next year?
We usually end up doing it because no one else has.
Oh, see, I thought it was your one of your duties that y'all do.
Well,
You got rid of your old policy by adopting Neola's new policy, and it just says you need to have an evaluation annually. But we'll be happy to
Well,
write out a
we'll
date
put it on
for
the
next
calendar
year
for
when
next
we're
year.
supposed to get it done.
okay.
So is everyone good with that?
Yes? Okay. It looks like yeah.
No,
No,
I think
No,
we
no,
have to
no.
notice it.
no. if what I'm asking in order to sort of conclude this circle is that the September 21st would be, we have a meeting, a workshop, and that we make it a special. And then all we're going to do is just roll over what we evaluated last time. And then is what I'm asking, or what I'm suggesting.
That seems fine. That's fine with me. And we can definitely notice it as a special meeting.
Right.
So,
Okay.
any other comments on that topic?
No, ma'am. And that's all I have, actually.
Oh, okay. All right. So, I have me and the superintendent and I, we met with a professor from the University of Florida Emerging Pathogens Institute. So if you guys remember that we were talking last time about what are the triggers, what closes schools, how many closures. So I was able to make contact with a Dr. Moore, and I'm so, I feel like I got so lucky because I contacted him the way I would contact any professor, and afterwards I was like, thank you so much for your time, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what? I mean, he basically responded with, I don't know what you mean, because this is what we do. So he is like the head of the Emerging Pathogens Institute, and their job, one of their key goals is to provide information for public entities like school boards, and he regularly will sit in on virtual school board meetings. So we met with Dr. Moore and Kathleen Ryan. Dr. Moore is he's a doctor, a medical doctor, and Dr. Ryan is the co-chief of the U.S. Department of Pediatrics. So we had the so they have a whole team at the Emerging Pathogens Institute. We met with two of them, and they were able to give us this guidance, which basically says that, when you hit our regular isolation procedure with normal transmission is at the bottom, with minimal to moderate school transmission is when you're looking at 3 cases in a class, and then you would close the class. In high school, you look at a 25% threshold for the class. The substantial controlled transmission is when you would direct a school to shut down. So if we had greater than 3, what we would be looking for is a cluster of related cases in 3 classrooms. And if we saw that, then we would close the school for a couple weeks to break the cycle of transmission, essentially. And then the most highest level is if we were to have like a massive outbreak in a whole bunch of schools. And I did speak with him separately, and we didn't really change this document. We took out anything that we needed to that wasn't relevant to us. But one of the things we could do, and I have talked about it with him, was that we can break up our schools. He and I talked about by north-south, but I think regionally. So if we have a big outbreak, because we're kind of regionalized, it would make sense to only shut down maybe the south end schools, or maybe region 1, or maybe we close region 1 and 2. But, it's something we can look at, and at that level, the health department would be helping us with this too. So he is absolutely the correct person to communicate with. They are working actively with Alachua County schools right now. And this was taken from Alachua County schools. This is their guiding document, which was created by the team at EPI. And so I was really excited that I think we got that. And I hope you guys like that or agree with it. It seems reasonable.
Dr. Burns, I reviewed it today. It seems totally reasonable to me.
Yeah, I thought it was really reasonable. Like, it wasn't crazy or
It was really well done. Thank you for taking the lead on that.
Well, you're welcome. So I was just really excited about that. And we also have that contact now. So when we get stuck on, does this work or what method we have, we have people to reach out to that are really, really top in the field. So I'm really excited. Okay. So that's that, which I'm excited about. I think, and if Mr. Dodd, if you ever want, you can reach out. I can send you information, Mr. Moore's information, and we can set up a meeting if you all want. But at this point, I was able to give you guys pretty much the lowdown on this. But we can always set up a meeting with guidance with this team if we have the need in the future. Oh, I did have a question, and that teachers have been asking me, why are our Lake Live teachers that only teach Lake Live teaching in classrooms? Is that Superintendent? Can you comment on that?
I might also ask Mr. Farnsworth to weigh in, because I know that this was just part of our collective bargaining. So it is in teacher contract that these teachers, because they are assigned to that school campus, that they have equity in duties, and it would be hard for them to share equitable duties with the other teachers on that campus if they're not physically located there. Also, all of their resources, their technology, and everything was located in the classroom. They're also part of common planning and other things, so we would expect them, because they're part of that faculty and assigned there, to physically be there. And I don't know, Mr. Farnsworth, if you have anything, because I know this was a discussion at bargaining, that you'd like to add to that.
You hit on all the major points. It was discussed openly in bargaining, and I think you've got teachers that are teaching brick and mortar that possibly feel there's an inequity there, that they're doing classroom. So we felt like it was a fair and balanced way, and all the interaction that they do have with their colleagues to prepare for their classes and team planning and things of that nature. And if you look at it, you get into, all of a sudden you're removing essentially 150 or so teachers off of our campuses. And where one person, it might not feel like it makes a big difference if they're not there. When all of a sudden you remove a larger number of people off of our campuses, it does make a difference to everybody playing their part of the team at the school.
Well, I understand also then in some cases that some of the teachers that are doing Lake Live, they also have brick and mortar students as well. So they're being utilized in both capacities.
Yes, sir. At the secondary level, it's not full day, and I know Dr. Burns was speaking of full day, and that's more at the elementary schools. While you do have a few, I'd say 130, around 130 that are at the elementary schools, and then throughout the secondary schools, you probably got another additional 20 teachers or so. Those are just rough approximate numbers at the secondary schools.
Okay. I thought one of the reasons for doing Lake Live was to provide teachers an opportunity to also be virtual.
No, ma'am, the virtual option and the ability for teachers to switch over allow for folks to move over to a completely virtual teacher setting. Now, it did reduce exposure. Obviously, if a certain section or class period or during the day, you're not, that is a product of the system of it. But really what the purpose of Lake Live was to offer an additional option for our families also. It wasn't born out of providing, that was not the primary reasoning for the Lake Live, was to provide a teacher option. It was more for a student option and a family option.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for answering. The other question I wanted to ask was, are we going to create, I guess more to the superintendent, are we going to create some sort of discipline or something, or some method to deal with the, what method, or are we working on a method to deal with the absenteeism with Lake Live?
So we have a meeting tomorrow with principals. We've had lots of conversation about the attendance issue with Lake Live. I know Sabrina Dillon Banks also just sent out a revised code of conduct that I believe does some referencing of some virtual options. That document, I think it's I just received the link earlier today, so I have not reviewed it thoroughly. But this is certainly something that we do have an attendance policy. 5 days, teacher contacts the student and whether they're missing a class or classes. I know that our administrators and guidance counselors are also providing support to reach out to families. And at the end of the day, we said in the very beginning that when an option just is not meeting the academic needs of our kids, we're going to have to bring in parents to say that this option is not working for your child and we need to provide an alternative. And that alternative might be brick and mortar, but we have to make sure it is our obligation, our duty to ensure that the academic needs of kids are being met. And we can't do that if they're not in school. That's also a truancy issue. And so I think that if we're not getting a response from parents, if kids still aren't in attendance, we have to do our due diligence to make sure that we are reporting them in accordance to state law and making sure that that we are sending out truancy letters. And Ms. Turner's here shaking her head that we definitely need to be more aggressive in that area.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Dodd.
And related to that, I had heard from a teacher today who I think expressed that kind of frustration, but also to take that a step further, sometimes the kids report to class, but they just have their camera off the whole time. So we don't really know if they're in class or they're, in the bedroom playing video games. We don't know that. So is the camera on-off situation part of that being addressed?
Yeah, we have a Lake Live guide now. I'll share that with the board, and these are some of the things that we've established some protocols and things that we need to make sure that all of our teachers are aware of the guide and that they're following it in accordance to the code of conduct that's now been amended.
Okay, that is basically what I was asking, if something like that existed. So that's great.
It does now.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's all the comments I had. We are adjourned.